Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and today I will be talking about the contenders for 2023's Game of the Year, and I have a special announcement at the end of today's episode. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to be notified when future episodes are released, and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. Thank you for joining. So, everybody, we are in the midst of the holiday season. Everybody, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving and a nice Black Friday. And we're coming up on the Christmas time of the year. December is right around the corner. And for me personally, Christmas time is always uh, penultimate when it comes to the Game Awards. That is my Christmas to me personally. And we're very close. It is about a week away from being upon us, and we're going to see what games are heralded as this year's Game of the Year, along with some announcements in the game industry, which I look forward to the most on top of everything else. Crowning a Game of the Year is pretty cool, but I'm always here for the announcements, and that's why I'm here to talk to you guys today. So, last few weeks, I've been playing a few games that have been coming out every so often, and I've been trying to get you guys on up to speed when I was finished those games and my thoughts on them and everything like that. So with us coming to the end of the year, I like to say that I finished about nearly every game that came out this year that I wanted to play. Dead Space, Alan Wake, Baldur's Gate. I even just finished Starfield and Mario RPG, which was a phenomenal game to go back to. Now, a lot of these games are really great that come out this year, and there's huge contenders that I think have a spot in terms of being awarded Game of the Year for at least Jeff Keighley's Game of the Year awards, right? That's like what we think is the Game of the Year, like for everything. I know like IGN, Kotaku, and everyone else is gonna have theirs, but you guys are listening to mine, and you're gonna hear what I think is gonna be Game of the Year right now. So a lot of games came out, and for now, let's talk about a game that I haven't really given a lot of time to here on the show, and that's Starfield. When Starfield first came out, I think early September, I only got about 30 hours into it before like Baldur's Gate came out, and then Alan Wake, and then a whole bunch of other games, and I was really backed up. So after finishing Mario RPG, I actually went back and played and continued Starfield from where I left off, and I had a great time. From beginning to end, from making your character to leaving the opening introduction area, finally getting your ship and exploring what Starfield has to offer. I loved every second of it. There are times when it does kind of slog down. I'm used to the Bethesda formula of go to a base, pick up all your shit or sell, and then go out and adventure in the way that you want. And Starfield does offer that in the same way it did in Elder Scrolls and Fallout. However, this game kind of loses track of itself a little bit because you kind of want to propel the story and deal with that, but also explore and do side quests. And it gets very overbearing how much you can actually explore in this game. Now, it's not like you're going to be going from planet to planet, seeing new things every single time. That's probably a little bit of a caveat for this, is that obviously these planets are vast and open, and there's not a lot of things to necessarily see or do. Most of the time, you're going to be seeing things like factories and lost mines or caves and things like that. But every so often, you'll find like a settlement or like a shipyard or like an animal den that's pretty cool. All the planets are very unique for the most part. There's different types of biomes that you can go through, like hazardous areas or places with oxygen or high and low gravity. All that's there in its own retrospect. So if you're looking for that kind of sandboxiness for this game, that's all definitely there. I didn't touch much of the outpost building. I didn't really like that in Fallout 4. And just for this playthrough, I really didn't want to do anything regarding that. Although I did tingle or fiddle with the shipbuilding for Starfield. And the shipbuilding I found was, clunky and relatively difficult to grasp early on, but at some point you do kind of understand what is being asked of you with the menu system and the laying out of your ship parts, and that's all like a big learning curve. But it was relatively fine. You could either from scratch make your own perfect ship if you want to, or just buy like a pre-made model with the credits that you earn from playing the game, which is awesome. And for those looking for the more tried and true Bethesda experience of like talking to your NPCs and making choices, that's all there. I only played this game once, one playthrough. I only saw the ending one time, and that, not to give any big spoilers or anything, but I don't know much about in terms of like the differences with the character choices or anything. But it all seems like there's quite a lot of variety from what I've seen with the ending. That's all really great. And for Starfield itself, I think it was a really good new game. I loved the lore. The setting was really unique. It does kind of focus a lot more on humans and their overall journey with like discovering themselves, it being in the universe and their place in it. You'll find that out during the story, of course, and I liked that. It made it feel a lot more like um I won't say down to earth, but like human like all the aesthetic of the game is that science and the technology is made to force human survival. So it looks a lot like it does, at least in terms of nowadays, with it being more accommodating to humans, or it's supposed to thrive for our survival. We're not getting like super technology that just makes it so that we're infallible in space. Like space is scary, when we're just small little humans and space could kill us. That's kind of like the vibe I get from this game. It does kind of take inspiration from things like Alien and Cyberpunk, Blade Runner, all kinds of science fiction like pieces of influence you can see throughout here. And I think that's all fine and dandy. Overall, I think it's a great setting, and I would love to go back to it and experience it, especially on a new playthrough. However, I will say it feels like it's half of the game that we were expecting. I mean, you look at the pedigree that Bethesda had over the last like decade and a half, ever since the inception of Fallout 3, and it doesn't feel like much of their style of games have changed, especially when you talk about this like revamped engine that they have for Starfield. It doesn't feel that different from even Skyrim or Fallout 4. It doesn't feel like the next gen type of game. And to me, that's probably the biggest letdown, because they probably could have done a lot more with this game. And I don't know. I super don't want to get into spoilers with this, because it's, I think, a game that's long enough that people probably still haven't fully finished the end of it. Although I don't know if you're really listening to this little podcast caring about spoilers, but me personally, I do. And I think that the road for that kind of adventure is always more intriguing than just hearing somebody talk about their opinions. So, if you're interested in playing Starfield, I do recommend you go out and try it for yourself if you've liked space RPGs or the Bethesda kind of formula in and of itself. It definitely feels like a Bethesda game, but playing it in the year 2023, when the last Bethesda game I played was in 2015, Fallout 4, it doesn't feel like we're in next gen. It doesn't feel like it's a game that was made 10 years after. It felt like a game that was made actually like 3 years after Fallout 4 was made, because it's all like the same mechanics, all the same graphics are there and everything. At least that's what I've seen, you know. Um, I was super excited for Starfield when it was announced long ago, and I've been waiting for it ever since. I finally got to play it, and I had a great time for the 80 plus hours or so, I think, but it kind of left me a little more wanting. I didn't have that same kind of feel that I did while going through the end of Skyrim or Fallout 3 or New Vegas. I'm unsure. I haven't played the new game plus stuff, so I won't get into all of that. But I did like the setting and the lore and the actual experience that it gave with like the ship combat and everything. Although Starfield, I do not think deserves Game of the Year in any regard. I think it's a pretty mediocre kind of game. If you look at Bethesda's pedigree, it does kind of have that feel. And, I kind of wish maybe they waited a year for this game to come out again. Because maybe next year, 2024, that could have been Starfield's year for Game of the Year. And that was just, kind of sad to not really see a Bethesda game given that kind of pedigree, or that pedestal to be on. But they did botch it, I would say. Microsoft bought this company, and whatever amount of influence that they had in it, it doesn't seem like it ruined the game. But for the final thing I'll say for Starfield is that I'm super excited to see where not only the modding community takes place for this game, because just like the Elder Scrolls franchise and the Fallout franchise, almost any game, its longevity and its life cycle gets extended so much through mods. And there's also DLC that's going to be coming out, hopefully. And not to speak too soon, because Bethesda obviously has a lot on their plate with trying to make Elder Scrolls 6 as large as it can, as good as it can, hopefully. And we're obviously going to get Fallout 5 or something along that lines. But for Starfield 2, I'm super excited to see where that franchise is taken in the future, because maybe it's not the same type of game that we've played before with this first Starfield game, but I think the setting and the storyline is enough for me to go back and play the sequel. All in all, with what could or could not be in the game. But that's Starfield, and that's a game that came out this year, and it, you know, for me, it kind of felt like it was dropped pretty early once Baldur's Gate 3 hit like PS5s and like full merchandise or in the public, I mean, for sale. I think Baldur's Gate really just overshadowed that game. Now, before I talk about what I think is going to be Game of the Year, there's a game I'll talk about, and it doesn't deserve Game of the Year, but it does deserve the same kind of love and attention that any other kind of remasters should get, and that's Mario RPG. This is a phenomenal remaster, up to its graphics, its redesigned music, its new design gameplay, which is pretty nice, and it was just a really great trip to go through again. The last time I played this game, I was like 11 when I had it on the N64, and that was really fun. And I haven't played that game again since, until now on the Switch, and that was phenomenal. I loved going through the Mushroom Kingdom and the New World, masked up with Square Enix inspired kind of locales and story, and playing through this RPG game again, because I was a big fan of Paper Mario and all those type of games. Doing this again was really fun. I beat the secret boss, the Final Fantasy little 4 crystal guy, which was pretty cool. And seeing Geno all again in really great HD graphics was really great. So I hope that Geno and the Cloud dude gets their comeuppance for like Smash or some other kind of cool video game, because this for a remaster is pretty awesome. This is a really good year for remasters. We had Dead Space 1 remastered, which is really fun, and Mario RPG I think is like pinnacle what remasters should be, as well as what was it, Metroid Prime? That's another Nintendo remaster that we got. And it's really good to see Nintendo kind of take the time to give older games real love in a $60 price tag kind of way. But that's just me. If you like any type of RPGs or Mario games in general, obviously go check out Mario RPG. It's made a little easier from what I could tell. A lot of the new mechanics in the game make the game a lot more bearable in terms with a lot of other kind of new additions. So really that's a great game that should be checked out. I don't think it deserves Game of the Year only because it's a remake, a remaster. That's just my personal take. However, Mario RPG is a solid game that came out. And I think I talked about almost every game I played so far this year. So let's get into what I think deserves Game of the Year 2023. And that's Baldur's Gate. Begrudgingly, after all the great games I played this year, Tears of the Kingdom, Alan Wake 2, and Starfield, honestly, it has to go to Baldur's Gate 3. Only because, in my personal opinion, when I think of Game of the Year, I think of games that either like change the industry, whether it was internally with its mechanics, its gameplay, its community, or it was something in terms of the impact that it had overall on gaming. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 takes that in strides, absolute strides, because sure, it's like a tactical RPG game, and we've seen many of those before. Mechanically, it may not do anything different from other games previously, like Divinity or the Tales game, whatever they're called. But in terms of how much of a fire it lit under the game industry with designers and the developers, the publishers, how much people were praising this game on top of saying that it's too good to be warranted for like this quality, like having the bar be this high is a bad thing. That's what it seemed like some developers were saying. I wouldn't name names or specific people or anything like that, but it did seem like the industry was trying to cope with having a really good game that, at the time was early access. This game was early access for maybe 3 years, I think, before it was fully purchasable, $60 on PS5 and PC and all that stuff. And sure, even if when you bought it at $60 and you get deeper into the game, you see some like stuttering and some cutscene issues and all kinds of things towards the third act of the game. But you can't deny how massive this game was. Even if it's riding off of the curtails of D&D, it's pretty exciting to see a RPG game that's like a tactical RPG game. It's not action based. It's not anything like that. And so many people fell in love with it. The character creation, the story choices you can make, the options you had to deal with scenarios depending on your class, your race, who's in your party, who's not in your party. That's all really, really phenomenal to me. And that's why I think Baldur's Gate deserves Game of the Year. It's a game that people kind of slept on. We knew about it throughout the years, but when it did come out, it absolutely changed the industry because now people are going to look for things like that in their RPGs. Starfield, for example, has very similar things to it, but Starfield is like a first-person action shooter game, like a first-person shooter RPG. Where Baldur's Gate is like you pick a class and a character and you can roll with that forever, or you can just change it and completely change up the entire way you want to play. But it is tactical. You kind of got to think on your moves a little bit, especially on certain difficulties, which is very different. But I would absolutely replay Baldur's Gate 3 again before I did Starfield. And a lot of the other contenders are up there, like Tears of the Kingdom. I think did a really good job with its internal mechanics. I'm not a game designer, but I know that people were really excited and happy to see that all of the mechanics in the game were pretty revolutionary, it seems, for the Switch hardware. That's all pretty cool. Alan Wake 2 was a beautiful game, one of the most beautiful looking horror video games you'll find out there. So I hope that game kind of wins maybe direction or art direction. But, for narrative or game of the year, it has to be Baldur's Gate. It has to be Baldur's Gate. And me personally, that's probably about it for what I care about for what could be game of the year. Maybe fighting game. I think fighting game, I guess best fighting now, right, guys? For the game of the year categories, it's best fighting now. But I think best fighting game probably should go down to Street Fighter 6 just because of how much it actually has in terms of its like content wise. Maybe Mortal Kombat 1 could be up on that, but I enjoyed Street Fighter 6 way more than I did Mortal Kombat 1. The story it had a lot more to it, obviously a little more free roam, side quests, all that kind of stuff. But personally, I just think Street Fighter 6 should take that. And that's Game of the Year for 2023. We're going to see who wins it. It's almost certainly going to be Baldur's Gate. Like, it almost has to be. But, who knows? Zelda might swipe on from that and just take it. So, Game Awards is actually right on the corner. And I've, like I said, always been a fan of the announcements that come along with this time of the year. Giving a Game of the Year its crown is rightfully due, and I think that's something that should be celebrated yearly. But for me, it's always on the announcements. It's always on what games are coming in the future, what's next year, what DLC, what consoles. All that kind of stuff is what fuels me day by day as a gamer. So as much as I love talking about what is the best game of the year, I couldn't care less when it comes to what games could be coming out next year, because we have a lot. We have quite a lot of games that could potentially be shown off again from last year or throughout the year, this year. And then we have things we know about already, like the Elden Ring DLC, which is inevitable to be shown off this year, probably be out January or February. That's like a 2-year anniversary for Elden Ring. That game's 2 years old. Wild. Absolutely wild. And I'm holding my fingers crossed for a Nintendo Switch 2 announcement. Now, while I think that's not where it's going to be. I just think that it's time. It's time for that. We know we're slowing down on the Switch releases for games, and it seems like they're not really having anything in terms of innovation ready. So I think that it's now time for the Switch 2 or whatever Nintendo's new console is going to be to show off. I think it's time. Um, we've already had two Zelda games on this console, two brand new ones. We're waiting on a new Mario game. Not Mario Wonder, but like Mario Odyssey. And, that's basically just it. There's a whole lot we could be looking forward to. There's Capcom's little space game that they're doing, and there's just a lot. So I'm really excited. We are getting about to maybe the end of the episode right now. It's going to be a little short. If you've been following, I've been trying to keep video games and books up on the same level in terms of weekly episodes for you guys. Although for now, I've been a little behind on the book that I've been reading. And the book is Cyberpunk 2077's No Coincidences by Rafal Kosick. And this is not much of a tie-in book, but it's set in the time of Cyberpunk 2077, and it focuses on a band of cyber runners, and they are tasked with helping out with a heist. They're technically blackmailed into it, and I'm having a good time reading it so far. It definitely has that cyberpunk kind of attitude flair. A lot of its characters and things, and it actually took some turns that I thought were surprising. There's a character that's taking care of a mentally disabled person, which I think is pretty cool. I never saw that in the game, and you would think like the future might be able to help with that, but it seems like people still have a hard time kind of giving treatment to those kind of people, and that was really cool to me. I thought that was really fun, and that's what fueled me to read the book. And I'm only about halfway so far, and I'm hoping to have it finished by the time that I get around to playing the Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition when that comes out. I have played the original game when it came out at launch, and I'm looking for an excuse to play the DLC again. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is get a chance to play that and read this game or read the book at the same time and tell you guys about it, because I think Cyberpunk, in terms of a franchise, should be celebrated a little more than maybe like digged on for the state of a video game. At least that's just me. When Cyberpunk 2077 came out, I fell in love with it, even at its current state at launch, which is, fine by me. But because of that, I got this book and I'm enjoying it. And because of that, I have a fun little announcement for you guys at the end of the episode that I won't, spoil on yet. But I will talk about the next game I do want to talk about besides Cyberpunk, and that's Warhammer Rogue Trader. This game comes out the same day as Game Awards, I believe, and it's very much in the same style as Baldur's Gate. You make a character, you have a party, and you can go around to various places making decisions based on that. But it's in the setting of Warhammer, and this is a place where every decision will penultimately end in war, fighting, and death. That's most likely the outcome for anybody playing this game. But you also have options for like dialogue choices and maybe talking your way out of options and things like that. So I'm really excited for that as someone who's been a newer fan to Warhammer these last few years. And so that's really cool. So before we get to the end, I've been catching up on some shows. I want to go and watch the Ahsoka show so I can prepare an episode for talking about that, as well as an Ahsoka style novel that I've just picked up. So please stay tuned for in the future where I talk about the Ahsoka show and the book and maybe something else Star Wars related around that time. It's been very hard to find time recently just to do stuff. However, I did catch up on the Loki TV show, season 2 for Loki, and that all seems pretty cool. I kind of like the state that Loki was in there. I actually probably like season 2 more than season 1, in my opinion, even though it kind of dragged on for a little bit. But that's my issue with Marvel. All the shows and movies seem so isolated and like just secluded from each other that it doesn't feel like worth watching them all. I watched the Marvels as well. That was also great. I loved that. It was short, at least it felt short to me, and things made sense. It while it was like three characters kind of being the plot hooks for the show or for the movie, I apologize. It didn't feel like it was forced or contrived, and it actually pretty much helped the movie. It made a lot of scenes really enjoyable, especially fight scenes. And overall, I like the arc that some characters took. Captain Marvel's pretty basic in it, but she has a pretty good redemption in a way that I think a superhero would kind of do um, their due diligence in terms of like their actions. I love that. And Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, 10 out of 10. You know, I think that her enthusiasm and her geekiness is what makes that character great. You know, and next to Spider-Man or like Miles Morales, I think Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel is like the next character for like teen or young adult kind of perception. And so we're gonna get that with like the Young Avengers, which is pretty cool. And yeah, you know, Marvel seems pretty all right for now. Um, uh, that's really just about it for Marvel. There's not much to talk about for them. Um, for anybody who may have know about this show, my girlfriend got me into Grey's Anatomy. We're in the middle of season 7. Can't believe we got that far so fast, but I'm loving it. You know, my favorite character was George. If you know of anything about Grey's Anatomy, was is pretty prominent. I love George, but actual favorite character is Miranda Bailey. I think she's a phenomenal character. It's the reason I continue watching the show. But I'm enjoying it. I told her that we're gonna probably catch up to the end of the show. However, if Miranda Bailey does leave the show at any point, I'm gonna have a harder time being invested. So that's Grey's Anatomy, and that's nearly everything I wanted to talk about for today specifically. So I guess we can get into the final announcement for uh, today's episode. And it's something that I've been talking about for quite a long while here on the show. And because of time and, you know, work and all kinds of things, it's been difficult to set this up. So without further ado, I just want to announce that starting December 13th and 14th, I will be having Start Playing tabletop RPG games set online for you all to join, and I hope to see any of you all there. The games that are listed are a Marvel tabletop game, a Cyberpunk Red tabletop game, and the Walking Dead tabletop game. They link and pictures and all else information will be posted here, but I just want to talk about a little bit these games. Is that I love tabletop games. I think they're incredibly fun and enjoyable as a DM, me personally, and I just wanted to have another excuse to DM more games, you know. So I'm giving some time of my own throughout the weeks to play some of these games for you all, and I just hope people, you know, show up and join. I'm not really looking uh, for a bunch of players. I think the minimum is like 2, max is 6 players for these games, and if they seem enjoyable or interesting to you and you want to give them a shot, please follow the links that are going to be down below. Um, I'm a massive Marvel and Walking Dead fan, and I'm a new fan to Cyberpunk, so reading the Cyberpunk Red book is pretty cool. You learn a lot of lore, but I have been actually rewatching the Walking Dead shows. I watched the Fear the Walking Dead series finale, which is pretty cool, and I'm all caught up on all those shows, and everyone knows I'm a massive Marvel fan, but I'm just looking for a way to get people to start playing games with me. That's really just about it. And you know, if you guys think you can show up and play, please do. I'm really hoping to run some of these games. The Cyberpunk game is going to be a heist themed game, and Marvel is going to be taking place alongside the Cataclysm of Kang campaign book. That's like the main scenario. And then the Walking Dead uh, game is going to be a little more survival oriented, set in the streets of Chicago. So that's all I have to say on that for you guys. So, you know, this is going to be a shorter episode. Probably the second to last episode we're going to have of the year. Look forward to one episode sometime after Game Awards and before Christmas, you know, before 2024 ends. I know I've been trying to get weekly episodes, but it's been really hard to, you know, have a game focused or have an episode focused on games and books and have the time to play and do all those stuff. So, um, it's busy now, but I hope that sometime in the future next year I can get onto a regular schedule, get episodes out periodically for you guys, and host some of these RPG games more and more. Maybe even have them recorded for the YouTube channel here or something. You know, this is just me just hanging out and talking with you guys, telling you what I think on games and books and whatever else I feel like talking about. So yeah, you guys just keep having a good holiday season, and I'll talk to you guys next time. This has been episode 23 of the Gamer Librarian Podcast. Be sure to subscribe for updates on future episode releases. Leave a like and comment on what games or books I should talk about in the future. Thank you, and see you next time.